Okay, so whatever we derived in the previous class, here there is a sign thing plus minus. This is in the beta into theta term, right? I can just double. So I mean, in the meanwhile, just note down this expression. I'll just quickly check what sign should be there, plus or minus here. So this is the full equation of coupled pitch flap dynamics. So you take down the entire equation. In the meanwhile, I'll just double check this out. So done. Up to here? So the printed notes actually doesn't have any sign there, neither plus nor minus. I'm just trying to double check it if there is anything later. Divergence, where is Flutter? Okay, so I mean, as per the notes, I don't see it anywhere. Yeah, there is no delta 3 anywhere. So this Kp beta is actually multiplied to that term. And I cannot find it anywhere else. Okay, so right now what you have to do is that this equation that you have written, where does this have that? No, because all these are for Kp 3 by 2 by r. Okay, plus Kp beta has to be there. Okay. If there is no delta 3, Kp beta would be 0, right? Okay. Yeah, so there is actually plus sign here. Okay. So this is correct. What I have written here is plus Kp beta. Okay. So have you noted down up to here? Is it done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now this equation, I mean, we have to do the same thing again. Either we solve it by using determinant method or eigenanalysis, like we did for the previous case. Yeah, in this, I mean, note down this C22 also, this term which is here. Okay. So right, so this part you can see is the inertia matrix. In the flap lag equation, I guess it had actually identity matrix here, but here now you have this is like mass matrix. This is like your damping matrix. So this is like M, this is like C, and this is K. So mass, damping, stiffness, and like we discussed, I mean, in Flutter scenario, what happens is that your C actually goes to 0. And in this has the fourth term in this matrix, C22, is written separately here because it is too long to write there. So this is gamma by 8. So let me just quickly revise this. So 1 minus 3 by 2 xi by r minus 3 by 2 xi by r, if star, beta double star, theta double star. Here gamma by 8 c bar k, which is your Tyroson's lift efficiency function, minus gamma by 12 c by r into 1 plus 2 xa by c into c bar k minus c. This is again the c for chord, okay, by 24r. So this is minus c by 24r minus gamma by 6 c by r xa by c bar k, and this is C22, which is written here, which is gamma by 8 c by r 2 xa by c into 1 plus 2 xa by c into c bar k plus gamma by 16 c by r whole square into 1 half plus xa by c plus 2 if star omega theta naught by capital omega into, this is xi theta, not zeta theta. Okay, because we are using xi. So somewhere I put xi, somewhere I put zeta. I don't know why, but anyway, this is xi theta, and final term. So this term, this whole matrix is multiplied with beta star, theta star, plus we have the stiffness term, which is nu beta square minus gamma by 8 c bar k minus 3 by 2 xi by r minus 3 by 2 xi by r plus kp beta. And here we have if star nu theta square plus gamma by 6 c by r xa by c into c bar k multiplied with beta theta equals to 0. So that's the equation that we have to deal with. Can be solved using determinant method or eigenanalysis. We'll look at the determinant method, okay, and we'll explore two types of instability. So two types of instability is possible here. One is static instability called divergence. Other is dynamic instability called flutter. So divergence is basically something just increases and goes out of bounds. Flutter, you have something which starts with a small disturbance and builds up with time like this. Yes, it's dynamic. And divergence is also changing with time, but you don't see any oscillatory behavior. It is like monotonic increase. So that's what we have to look at now. So what do? So we do the same kind of thing, route stability analysis, starting by assumed solution. Okay. So we assume that the solution is of the form beta theta equal to beta bar theta bar into e to the power s psi, where s we again take as sigma plus I omega. So this is your amplitude term and this is your frequency term. So this gives you the oscillatory behavior and this controls your amplitude at any point of time. And this is the term which we are worried about becoming positive, because if it becomes positive, first it becomes zero. So that's what we want to see, is where it becomes zero. Because if it becomes zero, then we get into limit cycle oscillation. And if it becomes positive, then you have instability there. But for static instability, divergence, there is no oscillatory component. Give me one moment here. Okay, so let's get back here. All right, so S equals to sigma plus I omega, but here for divergence, there is no oscillatory component, so omega would be zero, and sigma has to be greater than zero, right? That is what should happen to result in that kind of behavior of deflection increasing. So let us see how that happens. So first we look at the scenario of pitch divergence. So here elastic pitch of blade increases till failure, like I showed you in that sketch. So pitch divergence. So elastic pitch means that the twisting that is happening because of aerodynamic force. So this pitch that the blade will start twisting so much that it will break. So it increases till failure. Solving pitch flap equation as eigenvalue problem, we get two complex conjugate pairs. So the pitch flap equation that we have derived earlier, if you solve that as an eigenvalue problem, you will get two complex conjugate pairs, real and imaginary parts. So you'll have lambda real and imaginary. Now, out of this, lambda real should be greater than 0 and lambda imaginary should be equal to 0 for divergence. So what you can also note down is that divergence is a zero frequency condition. Therefore, acceleration and velocity terms are not important at all for this. And also, because there is no oscillation, so automatically one can say that the Théroux-Lipp efficiency function Ck bar is equals to 1. There is no unsteady effect involved here. So note down that divergence is a zero frequency condition, and therefore acceleration and velocity terms are not important. So let's go down a little bit more. So based on that, I can write the whole equation. I can modify the whole equation to look like this, because there is no beta star term, there is no beta double star term, there is no oscillation at all. Okay, it's just something which is changing statically. And this static change, the time rate is not important at all. The static change can happen very gradually. Okay, so the time factor here is not critical at all. And that's why the time derivatives have gone, and just having this term itself is adequate here. So what we are left now is basically this: mu beta square minus gamma by 8 minus 3 by 2 xi by r minus 3 by 2 xi by r, and this. So here what has been done is that also we have assumed that Kp beta is 0. Okay, so for this rotor there is no Kp beta, there is no delta 3 given actually. Okay. So therefore the equation actually simplifies to this form, because normally main rotors don't have delta 3. Delta 3 is only there for tail rotors mostly. because if you have delta 3 in main rotor, there can be a problem. Now, can anybody suggest what could be a problem if I include delta 3 in my main rotor? Anybody? No? Well, why did we use delta 3? And we discussed that, I mean, we use it on tail rotors. Why do we use it on tail rotors? Anybody?
Sir, in tail rotors, we use it to avoid the sudden gust.
Right, sudden gust problem. So you don't want it to react too fast. But for main rotor, I mean, if I use delta 3 there, what will happen? I mean, if suddenly gust something comes, I mean, or even when I try to give sudden input, if a pilot actually wants to give a fast input, the rotor will resist that. Because if the blade flapping is too much, it will always try to cancel out whatever inputs pilot is giving. So this may not be very desirable, and therefore not used that often on main rotor. So that's what we have not considered it here in this particular scenario. So based on that, we have this equation left. So let's see, I mean, what do we get out of this? So now we set the determinant for this particular matrix to be equal to 0. So set the determinant equal to 0 gives us critical condition. Okay. R equals to nu beta square into IF star minus nu theta square plus gamma by 6 into XA by R minus 3 by 2 xi by r gamma by 8 plus 3 by 2 xi by r equal to 0. So this is what we get, and this would be equal to 0. If r is greater than 0, then system is stable. If it is less than 0, then it's also unstable. So 0 is the critical condition, and greater than 0 will give you the stable condition. So using this, one can then try to identify, we can just reorganize these terms again. So this becomes 3 by 16 gamma xi by r minus gamma by 6 nu beta square xa by r is less than nu beta square if star nu theta square. And this implies xi by r minus 8 by 9 nu beta square xa by r is less than 16 over 3 gamma nu beta square if star nu theta square. So this is sort of going towards the condition. And we see after this, so we, after writing this in this current form, so just keep taking down this entire thing, what is there. So once we write it in this kind of form, we make use of this notion that 8 by 9 nu beta square is actually close to 1. Okay, because nu beta square would be approximately 1 point something, 1 point, I mean 0.9 or 1.1 or somewhere close to that. So 8 by 9 into 1.1 is close to 1. So one can approximate it to be 1. And so if that is done, then we see directly xi minus xa by r. So you remember what is xi and what is xa? Xi is location of the elastic axis, and xa is the location of the aerodynamic center. So the gap between the elastic axis and the aerodynamic center is what is of importance. The overall location of elastic axis is no longer important for us, or is not very critical in this particular problem. So this xi minus xi by r less than 16 by 3 gamma nu beta square nu theta square if star is the condition. If I ensure that my rotor has this kind of property, I can ensure that there won't be any divergence problem. Yes, so take down this whole derivation up to here. Okay, done. Okay, so what this particular condition tells us is that if I look at the whole airfoil, and see, mark out the elastic axis, mark out the aerodynamic center, and mark out the CG. So all these distances are actually that. So xi is actually this, and xa is that. So what we have is xi minus xa, which is chord-wise offset of center of gravity behind the aerodynamic center. Okay, and this we want to have between 23 to 27% of chord. That is what you end up getting. So if you calculate this, then we find out that this xi minus xa should be less than this kind of number, or it should be less than 25% of chord approximately. So this comes out to be 23 to 27%. So one can approximately say it is like 25% of chord, which is quarter chord. And that is the place where I'm actually I put the hinge also, right? So that is my rotational axis or feathering axis. So that's what we get. So this factor on calculation, for a stable blade, it comes out to be like that. So this is what is desirable. So this is for the rotary wing. We have to see what is there for the fixed wing. So for fixed wing, what happens? Same airfoil, you have only two things to worry about: elastic axis and aerodynamic center. So for divergence, position of elastic axis is very, very important. Okay, so this is very important. And the location of CG is not playing any role here, but here the location of CG is quite important, and the relative distance between the CG and aerodynamic center is actually what matters. So overall, my aerodynamic center for a typical subsonic airfoil is more or less fixed around quarter chord, and therefore CG, location of CG becomes very, very important. So if I bring CG to quarter chord, I actually ensure that my blades are actually going to be free from divergence. But for a fixed wing scenario, position of elastic axis is very, very important. So in rotary wing, position of elastic axis is not important at all, but CG placement is very important. Position of elastic axis is not important in rotary wing, but it is important in fixed wing. It is very important actually in fixed wing. Yeah, so very important for fixed wing. But for rotary wing, CG placement is most important. Where I place my CG, that is the most critical thing to ensure that the blade remains stable. So if we keep CG ahead of quarter chord, or at quarter chord, no possibility of divergence. So this is a very, very important statement. And it's a famous saying in the helicopter world that thou shalt keep blade CG at quarter chord. Okay. So it's like a very fundamental thing, okay, that you do whatever you want to do, but this is something which you cannot violate ever. Your CG has to remain at quarter chord at all times. Okay? So in every blade design, this has to be ensured. Otherwise, your blade may have possibility of divergence or flutter, and nobody wants to take that risk. So you always ensure. So what happens in the construction of the blade, small lead elements are put. Okay? So near the leading edge, which will try to bring the CG ahead of quarter chord. So you will put enough amount to ensure that the CG is ahead of quarter chord. Okay. So that's the important thing. So note down these statements. These are very important. Okay, you can write down in your own words. So for fixed wing, position of elastic axis is very important. For rotary wing, it is not important. CG location is more important, actually most important. And we want to bring CG ahead of quarter chord. So CG has to be ahead of quarter chord or at quarter chord itself. If that is the case, then there is no possibility of divergence. Okay? So that is what we want. Okay, so shall I move ahead? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's now see pitch flap flutter. So the equation was of this form, which we saw earlier. So you can keep note it down. So pitch flap flutter is what we are looking at. So m beta star star theta double star plus c into beta star and theta star plus k beta theta. So again, you can see these are all coming from aerodynamics. A lot of these are actually coming from aerodynamics, and of course inertia and so on. So now we do the same thing as we did for the flap-like flutter. We impose the assumed solution on the given equation, and we get a final determinant, and then we set the determinant to 0. And like before, you actually, for the critical condition where your S equals to I omega, that is your damping goes to 0, and you only have oscillatory behavior, we end up getting these two equations. So this is the first thing which we get, and when you impose this condition on that Routh stability equation, then we get a omega to power 4 minus I b omega cube minus c omega square plus I d omega plus e equals to 0. So you get something like that, okay, which is something, it's exactly same as what we saw earlier. So we again go back and look at the Routh's stability criteria, and which was R equals to AD square minus BCD plus B square E. Okay, so that's the condition once again that we have to deal with to see the stability. But now, of course, A, B, C, D are all very different from what we had for the flap-like flutter condition. Here things are different, but the condition, of course, remains same. The requirements are same. That is, when R is greater than 0, blade is stable. When R is less than 0, blade is unstable. Okay. And R equal to 0 is the critical condition. Okay. So what happens? The determinant looks like this. So you can note down these things and then write down this determinant, which is S square plus gamma by 8 C bar K S plus nu beta square into D12 and D22, which are written below. Here we have minus 3 by 2 xi by r s square plus gamma by 6 xa by r c bar k s minus 3 by 2 xi by r. Okay. And then the other term is D22. Okay. So we'll note down these terms which are here. D12 is given by minus 3 by 2 xi by r s square minus gamma by 12 e by r. Sorry, this is c by r, not e by r, my bad. C by r into 1 plus 2 xa by c into c bar k into s minus gamma by 8 into c bar k minus 3 by 2 into xi by r So that becomes my D12. D22 is IF star S square plus gamma by 8 into C by R whole square into XA by C into 1 plus 2 XA by C multiplied with C by C bar K into S plus IF star nu theta square plus gamma by 6 XA by R into C bar K plus 2 IF star omega theta naught by capital omega into xi theta. So xi theta, you'll remember, is the damping ratio, okay, in pitch. Okay, so this is damping ratio. The damping ratio is a non-dimensional parameter. I hope you understand that, right? Damping ratio in pitch. Okay. So take down up to here, okay, and then we'll proceed further.
Sir, in D22, this XA by C is the other term, or it is multiplied with C by R square?
Which term you said in D22?
The second term in D22.
Gamma by 8 C by R square XA by C. It's one whole term.
Okay.
Yeah, there is nothing in between here. All done? Okay, so let's move ahead. So narrating the shed-wake effect, that is the unsteady aerodynamics. Okay, so what we'll do is that we'll say C bar K is equal to 1 for the time being to make our lives easier. Okay. The Raoult stability criteria can be put in an approximate form. So whatever you end up getting in the complicated expression, all that actually simplified. And we also probably make use of that fact that gamma by 8 into something will be close to 1 and all those things. And finally, xi minus xa by r is less than C by R square into 1 plus 3 by root 2 plus gamma by 48 is what is obtained as the condition for stable blade. So what happens now? I mean, the condition here, okay, which is now not same as what we got for the divergence, but the factor or the form that it takes actually is very similar to that we got for the divergence. So xi minus xa by r is less than c by r whole square into this factor. So now we see this whole factor is actually positive because gamma is positive, c by r square is positive. So this factor cannot become negative, which implies that xi minus xa. So xi has to be always ahead of xa, right? So this entire thing should be, so this is positive. So this whole thing cannot become negative or something. Okay, so this cannot become negative. And this again implies that that we want CG behind of aerodynamic center. So xi minus xa by r to be positive, we have to ensure that CG is again behind quarter chord. So that is the very critical factor here. And note down this whole expression up to here. Okay. So we want to know that for flutter stability depends on distance of CG behind aerodynamic center. And here also we finally say that CG should be ahead of quarter chord. So ahead means, I mean, before quarter chord, okay, not after quarter chord. That's what has to be done. And then again, same kind of thing that we apply lead or something to bring the CG ahead. Okay, so that is clear. Now, eigenanalysis part we will not look into right now. Okay, there is an example. So have you noted down? I mean, shall we move to the example?
No, sir, no.
You're still copying. Okay, fine. Copy it, then I'll see.
Done, sir.
Okay. So now we'll just see how you typically solve a problem like this. Okay, so some data is given here. Right. So the critical thing is again that the CG has to be ahead of quarter chord, because what happens, I mean, in this the expression that we got here, okay, so based on this, it is again advisable that we have CG ahead of quarter chord, because here, I mean, it is very hard to add damping in torsional mode. So you don't much rely on damping to improve the stability performance like we did actually for the flap lags. So for flap lag, we said, I mean, having damping actually helps, having less thrust helps, but that's not the case for pitch flap flutter. So here, I mean, it's best to have CG ahead of quarter chord, and you use these expressions which we wrote to check whether it is good for divergence, flutter, etc. So here is a problem. The articulated rotor with 6% hinge offset. So 6% hinge offset means, I mean, you know what is the flap frequency, okay? Because it's an articulated rotor. Your lock number is given, your IF star is given, C by R is given, and it's given CG and elastic axis lie at 35% and 20% of chord. So you can find Xi minus Xa. So this is the location where CG and elastic axis is remaining. So you can easily find out the difference between them. So, and also the non-rotating torsional frequency is 3 times the rotational speed. So it's 3 per rev basically, okay? So that is known to you. So nu theta and nu beta both are known to us. So you have to find out whether blade is stable from pitch divergence or not. And if then the second part is if elastic axis is brought to 25% of chord position, whether the blade can get into pitch flap flutter, assuming CK to be 1 and KP beta to be 0. So that is the problem we have to solve. So first part, as you can see, is fairly straightforward. We simply first find out the flap frequency, lag frequency, we say, okay, and so this nu theta comes out to be theta square is 10 and nu beta square is 1.09. So based on this information, these parameters are known, this is known, and IF star is given. So you can find out RHS and you can find out LHS, and you find that, okay, blade is unstable here. If my Xi is at 0.35 and Xa is actually at 20% or 0.2, then my blade remains unstable, because 0.35 minus 0.2 is 0.35 minus 0.20 is 0.15, and it comes out to be slightly larger. LHS is larger than RHS, and therefore blade is unstable. Now part B says that if elastic axis is brought to 25%, okay. So instead of 20%, now we go to 25%. So if I do that, and we recalculate, we find that now it is actually fine. So actually now we have to check the flutter part. So for flutter part, what happens? We put all the things in the expression and get the determinant and solve it, or so this actually is like slightly tedious. So you put everything back into all the expressions and do all the calculations, get the whole determinant, and then finally you get A, B, C, D, E, and check that what is the value of the route stability factor R, and that comes out to be slightly greater than 0. It's a very small number, but still it is greater than 0. So we can say, okay, it is marginally stable. It is not unstable, but it is marginally stable if we made those changes. Okay. So this is the kind of typical simple problem that one can solve. So you can try to solve it on your own. So I hope you have noted down the problem statement. So note down up to here, okay, and you can try to solve yourself. Now I will send out one assignment today. It's not really assignment; it's more of a practice problem. So I will send it by mail, and all of you can actually try to solve it for practice. And if you have any questions, you can discuss with me before your exams. Okay. So this is it. I mean, this is the end of our discussion in helicopter theory, and exam would be once again open notes type. So it's better to have your notes ready, and not notes ready in a concise form. Don't try to look across pages. Make small formula sheets where you note down the critical things, so that if you want to see something, you can see everything in quick time, okay, and you don't end up wasting a lot of time. Okay, so that's the thing. And other than that, any other question you guys have? Anything? Our exam is on 25th, I believe, right? Evening 25th, next Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Right. So you have exact 1 week. So if you have anything, any questions, any query, you can ask now, or make sure you ask before the exam.
Sir, what will be the pattern of exam?
Sorry, pattern of exam. So pattern of exam will be, I mean, just like the previous exam. I mean, you have to solve, do hand calculation. Similar thing here also. Yeah, I mean, regarding syllabus coverage, there will be something from the, I mean, small portion, we can say 30%, maybe up to 30%, only 30% would be before midterm. And most other things would be whatever we have covered after midterm. So the exam, the questions would be, there will be some concept kind of questions where you have to explain something, or you have to give. So the next assignment will also give you, or the next practice problem will also give you some clue. Okay, so that will give you some idea. You have to give reasons for certain things. Okay? You have to explain certain things. So there will be some subjective kind of things where you have to give some explanation or give some reasoning. So such questions will be there, few, and then the rest will be numerical problems like we do all the time. Okay? There may be some basic derivation also based on some fundamental ideas. Like I may ask you to derive some lag equation for a certain kind of rotor or some such thing. Okay? So where some calculation has to be done. Some, like you may have to find m beta bar by integrating and calculating things and so on. So that those kind of things are there. Okay? Anything else? Nothing? Fine, then we'll stop now. Okay, so if you have not submitted your previous assignment, try to submit it as quickly as you can. Okay. Definitely before your exams. And if you are facing any difficulty, you send me a message. I mean, I cannot debug your code, but if you show me something, I can give you hints how to solve the problem. Okay. That is what I can do. But make sure you complete your assignment. Okay, it is quite important. And other than that, I mean, yeah, best of luck for your exam. Okay, so I'll end now. Okay, bye everyone.